Thank you. It's a contract. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Finance and General Purposes meeting, Monday, 18th of July. Just a reminder, this meeting is being visually and audio recorded for publication on the Town Council YouTube channel. Any apologies for absence?
Apologies received from councillors Jeff Brooks, Jeremy Cottam, Lourdes Cottam and Richard Grumley.
Thank you. Any declarations of interest for any items on the agenda? No. Minutes of last meeting, minutes of the 25th of April. Are there any comments or suggestions?
Forgive me, Chairman, I was just going to propose we accept them as a true record.
Can't see any. So, Councillor Jeffrey, do you have a proposal?
Yes, propose we take them as a true record.
Thank you. Does that find a seconder? Thank you.
Second again now.
Those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Matters arising from last meeting. Any matters arising from?
Nothing from me, Chairman.
And any feedback from any members on the last meeting minutes? No. Thank you. Budget review, reviewing the budget report for the whole council budget. On the screen, the one thing that I would say is that now all the figures are in for the first quarter. So this, just to confirm with our RFO that everything is in, as far as we're aware, Steve, that should be in.
Yes, yeah. Just one caveat, though. I think we have had some staff shortages this month. John has been off with COVID for 2 weeks, and we also had Linda off. So I've ended up entering all the invoices for the month to ensure our suppliers were paid. So I think as we touched on this morning, some of the events areas and probably civic allowance needs a few more adjustments, which we'll put through next week.
Thank you.
Could Chair for you to just to ask Steve sort of ballpark figure, Steve? I mean, I'm assuming you're talking a couple of thousand rather than £10,000 worth of things to square off.
Yeah, I think it's more just moving things between. I think that there were a number of changes around the special events around the Jubilee, and also some things were transferred into the Family Fun Day, etc. So I talked through with John this afternoon. So it's just a case of tidying those things up, really.
I think when we get to certainly the events section needs some tidying up. When we get to it, it'll be fairly obvious. Right, so we have kicking off as we always do with staff salaries. So, Steve, I think the reason for the slight over here is accrued salaries. Is that right?
Yes, it's there are just differences which are going through at the moment, which will even out over the year. But yes, I did accrue for the staff increases from last year, which went through in the April payroll.
Okay, thank you. So to complete page one, obviously had the half year precept through. Still money you'll see is the massive sum of £672 for the last half year, and interest as ever continues to be under budget purely and simply because we haven't yet had the rate increases which will go to increase our income slightly, investment policy being on the agenda later on. So that's 100 and 101. Looking down to 102, which is the democratic representation and management.
Yeah, there's just a couple of things there to mention. Sorry, Mike. One
was
around. We'd agreed last year because of the ability of the mayors to spend their civic allowances that we actually moved them into a reserve. So yourselves was 4,700 and Councillor Boyd was 4,000. So the The 4,700 has been moved into the general reserve working balance at your request, and the 4,000 for Councillor Boyd has been moved into this cost centre really to offset the costs for some of the civic ceremonies that we held earlier this year. So
thank you. I'm going to go through. Please shout, indicate if you have any questions on anything that is being discussed or anything that is being said.
So in that case, Chair, so 4034 public relations, year-to-date actual versus year-to-date budget.
Any figures on those, Steve, or Mel?
Is that part of the tidying up exercise, that budget line?
Steve, do you know? Steve, can you hear us?
yeah, sorry, apologies. Yeah, sorry, I can't give you the figure for the explanation for what the spend is on public relations. I'll have to come back on that one.
And then just the other thing is, now we know we've got a cost centre that's over budget. What are we doing to stop coding to that budget so it doesn't carry on overspending? Yeah,
sorry. So the overspend, if you see the line below the transfer from EMR, the 6,000 code. So I mentioned that Councillor Boyd's civic allowances were being transferred through. So you can see there that 2,500 effectively has gone through to offset some of the cost. And that was mainly for the mayor's event that we had at the football ground, I think it was. So overall, yeah, there is a small overspend, and this is one of the other areas that just needs a little bit of tidying up around as the costs for the various events come in.
I mean, I would say it's small in pounds, but compared to its budget, it's massively overspent. It's 197 spent, 197% spent against it. I would be approving spend in an area that's already way over its own budget without a justification, really.
So this is a phased budget. So you can see the column total annual budget at the end has a budget of nearly 27,000. But I think what I'm trying to say, so it's the movement to from general reserve figure. So there's 2,500 from reserves to offset the spend on Councillor Boyd's civic allowance. So there's 4,000 available. So we'll transfer more through. So that it isn't such a large overspend is what I'm trying to explain.
I think Lee's point is more around the fact that the public relations line.
Oh, apologies.
Itself, which isn't anything to do with
balancing out
the previous mayor's expenditure on behalf. That particular line is way over budget, in fact almost 200% of budget. But if you don't have the figures, obviously you don't have the figures for every single line. Perhaps we can get an update on that to members of the committee.
Yes, apologies, yeah.
Okay, nothing on there, then I'll move on to grants. Situation with the library, still in a bit of flux. Other than that, grants committee have met. Minutes will come to as a later agenda item. So questions remaining on page 2. We're now on to events. This is where we believe there are some codings and one thing that doesn't also look totally right. So Steve and John and Mel are going to look at some of those.
So this
first one. Sorry, Steve.
Sorry, Mike. So the 1956 there, that's actually Eventbrite monies. So it's ticket sales for the mayor's event. So again, that income should be in the civic allowance cost centre above that we've just been looking at. So that's one of the adjustments I need to make next week.
So, Mr. Chairman, rather than us ask questions on stuff that might get moved, would it be more pertinent that we allow officers and then you to do the checks and we come back to them?
That's okay with the committee.
It takes us to page 8 then.
I think I'd involve the chair of the events committee, i.e. our present mayor.
Yeah, absolutely.
Within that, as well as it's the events budget. So yeah, Thatcham Festival obviously hasn't taken place yet. Some pretty far in advance. Christmas, ditto. I think some of the equipment hire, if I'm right in saying, Mel and Steve, was because we had to cancel the in the park, so there were some deposits which we've effectively managed to knock over to future events. Is that right?
Yes, partially, and deposits that we paid for equipment ahead to secure them for the event as well.
Yeah. Any question on page 4? Remembrance Day, United Service Remembrance obviously not taking place as yet. No questions on page 5. Page 6, this is one of the ones that need tidying up, which we will look at. It's the line down the bottom, 4987, 10,300, which is the budget as a and needs basically needs looking at. So we will do that along the lines of which has already been discussed. Again, page 7. We'll come to special events down the bottom, but page 7, and then on to page 8, which is the rest of the special events. That anything you want to say on that, Steve, from discussion with John today?
Yeah, I think it's, so you can see there again that line 6,000. That's the residual value of the Jubilee monies that were agreed by council last year. So there was 13,000 agreed, and some of that was spent on deposits in the previous financial year. So the remaining balance was 11,772. So when all the costs are in for the Jubilee and also for the fund day, we can then have a look at these various balances and just tidy things up. But there are funds there. It's just a case of making the journals.
Yeah, that's the one that we will be looking at. Central services.
Yeah, so income's on target at the moment, as is expenditure.
Chair, through you on page 9 of central services.
Yeah.
So there are some items. If I take 4025, for example, insurance, it looks like that's what our renewal quote was, and so it's been paid, and that we budgeted 10,250, but actually the renewal came in, it was 9,200. So my question is, on those ones that are high to 90% and over on their percentage spend, is can we almost bank that residual balance now? So we're not anticipating additional spend because we paid the bill.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, again, the reason for the budget being higher was that we went out to tender on insurance. So at the time the budget was set, we really had no idea what the insurance was going to cost. And we'd also been out on building revaluations, which added nearly another 3 million onto the cover. In terms of the insurance, it is actually, there's a prepaid element in there. So the insurance was about 7,500. So, but yeah, we could via the budgets around It's it's just these things are time consuming. But if we see a benefit in varying budgets where we know we're going to underspend to those areas where we're likely to overspend.
Through you, Chair, it wasn't so much that, Steve. It was just us as members having an awareness that even though the pot says it's 90% spent, as officers, you're not really intending on spending anything else out of that pot.
Yeah, I understand.
That's what I mean. So just almost like an asterisk next to it. You're quite right. There's small sums that take a lot of accountancy time to via over. But just as members, we can sort of hold it in our head that, there might be £300 in that pot and, £200 in that pot.
No, absolutely. And there were some budget notes that accompanied the report. And I think I did actually provide an explanation on insurance. But no, I understand what you're saying. So thank you for your comments. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
So we did. If we took them on to page 10, essentially down the bottom of central services, year-to-date budget 74,000, year-to-date expenditure 72,000. Result, as Mr. McCall would say, happiness. So as ever, decent, very good control by the clerk and RFO, and thank you as ever. Capital projects IT upgrade, I think was about 7.5 that's agreed for that, I believe. Steve, 7.5.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we set the budget last year,
once the expenditure comes through, that will just be a transfer from reserves which had previously been agreed. Old Blue Coat School, just the massive £25 that we get from rental. Priory, there is a rental increase. We will come on to the Priory under number 8, the increase on the Priory. So I'll leave that, if I may, until we get to there. So F&GP, essentially we are looking at an underspend at the moment in total. No questions on page 11. We'll move on page 12. Tax youth work in and out. Presumably slight increase on, is it an RPI increase or something similar on that one?
Chairman, that's actually due to the success of the chill and chat sessions that they hold at the pavilion on Friday evenings. There was a desire from the young people to have refreshments available to them. So we are providing a slight increase to cover.
And street lighting, reactive maintenance, street furniture. I believe the £1,000 was hanging baskets, was it, Steve? Well, thank you.
That's correct.
Apart from that, and salary allocation, no expenditure on street furniture, which is always good, considering most of that's reactive stuff. Birdwood, income down, but overall, income over expenditure below budget, with some cost savings and cost containment. Any idea, Mel, Steve, what the run rate is on Birdwood income at the moment? Are we seeing any increases over the last couple of months?
We had a conversation about this earlier around, I think there is the spare capacity at Birdwood at the moment, and it's really how we can encourage obviously people to either have birthday parties or use the facility more. So there were some suggestions in the team meeting earlier today, but and especially around upcoming events, where we can try and promote the availability of the hall, but also some of the groups that are using the hall at the moment. So it's so I think it is more a question of filling the capacity at the moment. Certainly Frank Hutchins is pretty much on target, but Birdwood, needs a bit more promotion, I think.
Chairman, the Community Engagement Working Party met last week and they have added an action to their action plan to look at marketing of the halls.
Thank you. Tell them from me, they're wonderful people. But as I say, overall under budget with some cost reductions and cost containment, which is good. Frank Hatchings Hall, Steve said the income there from community income is actually almost there on budget, which is good. And again, with some cost containment, we are looking at an underspend on, at least on budget, or below net expenditure below budget on that line as well, which is again commendable. Right, now on to page 15, Malls Workshop, there or thereabouts, again, total spending of about £1,000. Again, please shout finished questions on any of these.
Just with the moors and the pavilion, Chairman, just a flag of advice to members that we might have to spend some money on fire detection systems, etc.
I think that was flagged at RNA.
Yeah, so just letting just in terms of seeing what cash is there versus what's going to be spent.
Yes. And then going on to the Moors Pavilion pitches, again, we are under budget. There. Hennick Field, Steve, could you just give us a lowdown on the outturn for last year?
Yes. So we have an agreed partnership agreement of £40,000, and historically we've paid £10,000 a quarter on account, if you like, and then Hennick bill us usually before the end of the year, so we can adjust the final quarter payment. Sometimes that has been over 40,000, but certainly last year it was below because of the year before it was below because of the additional money they'd received from West Berkshire Council. But also for this year, they've come in below the 28,500. So sorry, the 40,000. So because we hadn't had the invoice in, we paid 30,000 on account, and then we accrued 10,000, which is what that 10,000 credit is there. When the final bill did come in, it came in at it was 28,000-ish. So what we've done is moved the effectively that underspend, we've moved it onto the Hennick Reserve. So it's obviously it's there as we've done in the previous year. So we have something like 40,000 on the Hennick Reserve at the moment.
I think the figure was 29,740, which is where we get the 10,260.
Yeah, sorry, thank you.
To reserve that need, we will have that on the agenda at some point in time as to what to do with that money, which is now accrued in there, that we will need to keep a small amount of reserve for to cover the eventuality, as Steve has outlined, where we may be asked for more than the 40,000. So it seems sensible to have a measure of earmark reserve, whatever we are at the moment. So we need to do something productive with that.
And just the other thing to note with that, Chair, is obviously at Hennick, because it's joint management committee, the town council has decision-making powers at there. So if we were to see expenditure massively exceeding that 40,000, your town council reps would be asking for, a reduction, obviously on spend, to slow it down, to bring it back within the budget allocation as close as possible.
Yeah, thank you. Heritage, there's History Trail, which is a unbudgeted item.
Sorry, so there was a reserve set up when we look at the reserve spreadsheet, but there was some money put in place for the History Trail. So again, I'm waiting for all the costs to kind of come in before I do the transfer. But I think there was around 3,000 earmarked for this work.
Okay, thank you for that. Thatcham Cemetery income below budget. That's to be expected this time of the year. Regrettably, that tends to even out during the winter for obvious reasons.
My family started your financial year off well for you at some point. A couple more of mine down there.
Steve, do you just want to cover the rates?
Yes, unfortunately, this predates me, but apparently 5+ years ago there was a revaluation of the cemetery, not just the Thatcham cemetery, but I suspect all cemeteries, certainly Newbury cemeteries as well. And we received a bill from West Berkshire beginning of the financial year informing us that the business rates for the cemetery have gone up from, I think it was around 500 to 8,500. So we've queried that, but Mel's also checked with Newbury, who have 3 cemeteries, and they've also started incurring these higher business rate fees. And as it looks at the moment, there is very little we can do about that other than accept the cost. It's
for you, Chair, the West Berkshire Council, Steve, have the decision-making ability to not charge the rates, don't they?
okay.
So that they can have local discretionary schemes as well.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate that the business rates obviously aren't kept in West Berkshire. 80% of it goes outside of West Berkshire, and West Berkshire keep 20% of it. But for me, there's a further argument or an application, I think, to be made towards West Berkshire sort of formally to say, we want it reviewed and removed.
I think certainly on the basis that when we set the budget, there was no awareness that there was no pre-notice that said the business rates were going to go up by such an amount. But the rates are taken by direct debit, so they're actually taking the money anyway. But yeah, absolutely, I think it is worth putting in some kind of application, particularly around the lack of notice on this.
And I mean, it's not a business, is it? It's a service. I think that for me is the core difference of it.
Yeah.
We're not trying to make profit out of this.
No.
And indeed we don't. So yeah, if you find them clerk table for me.
I'd write to Joseph as head of finance.
So without that 8,000 on rate, again, we are slightly over budget. That's a thing. And as I say, regrettably, we'll probably adjust over the rest of the year.
So check, why is the 8,000? So the 8,000 is not in here as a budget line, but it is a clear pressure at the moment, Steve.
Yeah, absolutely. And the reason we had a conversation internally about whether we should post the 8,500, but because we were appealing it, if you like. So I think it's in there for period 4 now. But yeah, it's I think we need to recognise that it is a pressure. Yeah.
Cheers.
So on to page 19, which is allotments. Again, within a gnat's whisker of being at budget and slightly under. Play areas 251 on page 19, going over to page 20, under budget. But I've seen areas under budget for about 2 years. Which is extremely good.
Yeah, we did significantly increase the play area budgets this year, but I think on the other side of that, there probably hasn't been a huge amount of reactive maintenance. But yes, it's encouraging at this stage.
So, certainly stabilised by the looks of it. Open spaces.
Yeah, I think there's just a couple of things on there. One was
underspent. Is that? Oh no, there's a committed there. Sorry.
So those committed figures aren't included in the actual figures, but the so there's a couple of things to mention in there. One is the on the tree work, that although we look as if we've spent pretty much the budget, the tree contractor has completed all of the medium risk work on the tree estate, which was the bulk of that budget. So what's left in there is any one-off trees that need some work. On the grounds maintenance contract, the reason that you can see the commitment there and that we're below budget is that the new contractor had staffing issues earlier in the year, which tied in quite well with slower growth apparently. So what happened? The new contract involves them evidencing the work they've done, so they photograph things, so it's possible to see when they haven't done things. So what they've done is reduce their charges, which has provided an opportunity to have some additional one-off work done. So there's more work coming through, but as at Q1, also their staffing has improved. Mike was saying so. So that's the reason for some of the activity on that line, if you like.
Any question on page 20? And 21 is basically a summary of town centre committee, starting on page 22. CCTV, nothing really to say there, unless anyone has any. Okay. Good news then on rates on toilets, Steve.
Yes, as part of the what was it, the WC Act? I can't remember the joke I said last year, but there you go. So some of the money that we received back, we received some further money back from West Berk. So we do potentially have the opportunity to move that to partly offset the cemetery additional rates if we need to. But I appreciate that's only a small amount, but it all helps. So.
Yeah, I think I would still like us to see what we on the cemetery rates.
Yeah.
So again, with that rebate, again below budget on toilets. So we're on page 23 now. Thatcham market. Market fees seem to be slightly up on budget, which is nice. And expenditure is slightly below, which is also nice.
We did reduce the income target a little bit on the market this year. So yeah, it's good to see that they're exceeding those targets. So.
No questions on 23. Move on to 24, which is the Welcome Back Fund. That presumably is that money that will be fired over from silk money?
Yes, it's I think so. This is, I guess, going to town centre committee, but it was a refund request from West Berk. So I think they originally advanced a block of money for the Broadway works, and they've asked for a portion of that back. So it's
okay. So we look to be in reasonably good shape. Would that be a fair summation, Steve?
Yes, yeah. I mean, the other thing on Turnfields, just to note, is obviously on the planned maintenance line, we're incurring the cost there for the sensory garden, on the field outside the council offices. Again, the Turnfields Charity Commission's meeting to decide how there's £17,000 available within investments for Turnfields. So there's a question around how that will be funded. But again, I think the commitment there will be, there's enough money there to be met should the Turnfields Committee choose to do that.
I think there is a meeting of Turnfields or the council as trustee before full council next week. So yeah, that will be on the agenda then. End of end of budget summary. So as I say, we seem to be well under control and overall within budget. Yep. Obviously, with that tidying up, we need to do on various. So that's phase 5A. Item 5B, which is the reserves and 106 money. Obviously, there is a large amount of detail in there as to commitments, etc. We still have the traffic flow consultants in as a commitment, which seems prudent. Just don't know what's going to be happening with the Siege farm development. The only other thing I would say is that we will, I think, be needing to top up rolling capital fund. We have Kennick-worthy money that we can look to do, so I will. That one needs to go from council, doesn't it?
Thoroughly no.
All right.
No, this committee can.
I'll look to do a proposal then for next committee meeting to tidy that up after I've spoken to Mel and to Steve. Any other questions on the reserves and SIL money? No, thank you. That's 5B. Thatcham Library. Clark, do you want to introduce this one?
A brief update following on at the previous meeting. Contract is out to tender on last with the closing date of the 5th of August. But it's still planned for September, obviously delayed. So was the library closed during summer reading challenge during school summer holidays.
Thank you. Councillor Griffin.
Chairman, proposed noted.
Thank you. One second. Thank you. Those in favour. Thank you. West Berkshire Library Review update. Okay, anything to add, anyone, to the documents in front of you?
Chairman, other than that, the latest report there.
Councillor Griffin.
Mr. Chairman.
Second, thank you. Those in favour, thank you. Item 8, which is the Priory rent review. We are going to have a look at this and involve solicitor if needs be for opinion, because this appears to say, and I cannot believe that it's right, but it appears to say that the 5-year increase is based on 1 month's RPI, which cannot be right. It must be the previous 5 years increase in RPI assessed on. Well, I would hope it would be. Otherwise, it's going to be a pretty minimal increase. Not being a lawyer, asking the clerk if she can have a look at it herself, her quasi-legal brain on, and then if necessary, consult with solicitors to make sure that we are actually getting what we are due under the terms of the contract or the lease. Any questions on that points?
Yep. Does that just mean, Chairman, that it'll come back to the next meeting, this committee, when you've spoken to the lawyer, to the solicitor?
Chairman, it is set out in the lease that it will automatically happen, so it will come back to this committee, but as information to note, because it's already set out what the increase should be, or how the should be calculated.
That says, I think, open to interpretation discussion, so we just want to make absolutely sure that we are looking at the right figure. Mechanics of that, sorry, I'll bring Councillor Dillon in a second. Mechanics of that, do we tell response what the increase will be? Presumably we do.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
down to us to tell them. So, that will- sorry, Councillor Dillon.
So if it doesn't appear to be written how I hope it's written, obviously we have the option to review the whole lease. And so we could review the lease, rip it up, issue a new one with the clause being in it as it needs to be, and readdress that at a new rent level as well then. So we would have other options available to us. So I just wonder, do we want to provisionally just set up a working party so you've got a group that you can consult with over the summer rather than bring it back here?
That would be useful. I would suggest
I'd be happy to go on that, and Mike I think should go on it.
leader, deputy leader.
Yeah. Do you want Richard on it?
Be very useful. Especially his wife signed the contract.
Yeah, I signed to buy it. She signed to lease it.
Yeah, again, 4 and 3
Yes.
required on those. So terms of reference for that suggestion, Madam Clerk?
To review the Priory rent and make recommendations to.
Yeah, if we're happy with that, that's a proposal. So 1 second. Thank you. Those in favour? Thank you. Party will be set up accordingly. Investment strategy, sorry. Steve, anything you want to say on this one? Significant changes to previous?
Yeah, just to say it's the annual update of the investment strategy and also the banking investment policy, and it's basically on the agreed principles as in previous years, that we focus on AAA investment and that we have the general reserve, the minimum reserve of 220,000 split between 4 UK-based investments on 1-year fixed term. So that's the principle of it that we're working to. The forecast here is just a summary of what we're expecting to see in cash flow terms this financial year, and you can see there that the Priory loans on the long-term borrowing are reducing, as you'd expect, as the capital is repaid. The interest-bearing fixed-term investments, they're the 4 investments I mentioned that make up the 220,000 minimum reserve, and you can see there, as cumulative interest has been added, the amount on that balance is about forecast to be the end of this year over 250,000. So there's good cover in terms of the minimum reserve. In terms of on-call deposits, again, I think we're expecting some grant money coming in on the Turnfields, the pathway, so which was spent last year. So we should see an improvement on the cash position at the end of the year, and then on the AA money market funds, which is effectively the CCLA deposit that we have. That we withdrew 100,000 of it in April, which was covering off some of the spend on reserves last year, and we're forecasting another 70,000 to come out of the CCLA investments this year, based on the commitments that we have in the EMR sheet as of last week. So in terms of Appendix 1 here, it's just really a summary of where we were at the end of the financial year, which just really shows that it's really the total just a bit further down, sorry. If we just get, so this 556 is effectively our cash position at the end of the financial year. And you can see how that effectively is made up in terms of general fund minimum reserve and also earmarked reserves. I think what's obviously things like making the decision on Hennick, it's really starting to look where we don't have ring-fenced money So the general fund working balance is still healthy, but is coming down, and the rolling capital fund is coming down. So it's just really looking at how we manage that going forward. So yeah, so that's yeah.
Thank you, Steve. Any questions, Councillor Dillon?
Yeah, thank you. So our investment strategy says sums will not be invested in fixed term deposits for longer than a year, so 365 days.
Yeah.
I get why, but we also know the longer you lock money down for, the better return you can get as well. And I just wondered, is there 20, 30, 40, 50k of money that actually we could afford to lock down on 2-year rates, which still gives us the flexibility to be able to respond in our budgets? Not necessarily, I don't want to propose a change to this, just a question maybe for Mike and Steve to think about.
The answer to that is almost certainly yes.
Yeah.
So what level? Because essentially the figure of 200,000 was at core that we can't go below. Well, if we do dip into that, then there's something severely gone wrong. Cataclysmic event probably. Which case the entire country is going to go to the dogs. So yes, undoubtedly we can. It's always a question of what you're going to get, and in the current interest rate environment, where interest rates are going, because at the moment they're going up.
Yeah, so you don't want to lock the money down yet.
Tying something in for today's rate for 2 years at the moment would not be that sensible. When they're coming down, it would have been very sensible. But of course, you know. So yeah, I think it's something for.
Maybe if I could ask you to keep it at the back of your mind as a working brief, Chairman.
Of course.
Thank you.
Any other question on the investment strategy? Do we need to formally adopt this?
Yes, please.
In that case, can I propose from the chair that we adopt the investment strategy for 2023? If that finds a second, thank you. Those in favour. Thank you. Adopted. And the banking and investment policy, again, anything to say?
I think it's just have a quick look at the table further down. So when we talk about the 4 investments, these are the well, 3 of them are fixed term, and the Newbury Building Society is a closed account, but it's a 90-day notice period. And what I've included in there is the interest rates we're getting now, and the interest rates, so the fixed interest rates we're getting now, but then also the interest rates that are available as of this week. So if you look at something like Close Brothers, you can see that when we fixed the investment last year, we got 0.55%. They're currently offering 2.6%, which is, comfortably above the base rate at 1.25%. So that one is due for renewal in August. So I think that the recommendation further down is to recommend to full council that we roll that one forward at 2.6%. The other one that's coming up for renewal at the end of September is Nationwide, which again was at 0.3 when it was fixed. It's now at 1.1, which obviously is below the base rate. The banks typically aren't offering generous rates, but again, we have a couple of months when the interest rates will likely rise. So again, it's just to see there that the total at the bottom, you can see that the rate of return, although it's small, it is increasing as the interest rates are increasing. So that's yeah. So that's all I was going to say on that.
What for you, Chair? Why when we dump it in the building society because of the FSA 85k cap? Or we're not protected by that, are we? As a banking, as a professional customer, sorry.
As a policy when this was first set up many years ago,
Yeah.
The reason why we did this was purely and simply a spread of risk.
Yeah, the Icelandic banks and stuff.
Exactly that reason that you outlined, that we're not covered by the Depositors Protection Scheme. Our status with most commercial organisations doesn't exist. They don't understand what a town council is and have no accounts for town councils. So we are actually quite limited now. And I think if we were to approach probably Lloyds Bank now, I don't know if you got any views, Steve, they would probably say we can't open an account. That's because don't exist as an entity. You're not a limited company, you're not a partnership, you're not a whatever. That, given the interest rate at the moment, might not be a bad thing, but the interest rate that we might get is obviously worth it. But it was purely and simply that spread of risk.
But where we are now, though, we could choose to up Newbury Building Site to 150k and top up our existing account, appreciating again that that's 50. Well, it's all of it at risk. I mean, if Newbury Building Site, a bit like if we spend that 200k, you know, I mean, if Newbury Building Site go under, you know, I think us losing, you know, 150k compared to what will happen to the rest of Newbury will be fairly small fry, won't it? As I said, it's the balance in the chair between maximising investment and managing the risk.
Yeah. Newbury Building Society, I think I'm right in saying, Steve, we couldn't add to?
That's right. Yeah, with it being a closed account, you can no longer open an account. This actually is a generous rate for them.
So yeah, unfortunately with that one we can't, but the others we can absolutely look at, especially when if we get better interest rates. But then we've obviously got the working party set up to look at those on a minute by minute basis or day by day basis. Again, any other questions on the banking investment policy? Proposed adoption from the chair. A second, thank you. Those in favour. So maturing investments. These need a decision in August and in September. You looking to preempt the working party with this one, Steve?
Yeah, as you know, I'm leaving in 3 weeks' time, so it's a case of trying to preempt a little bit.
Right, that seems eminently sensible. Obviously, there is a discrepancy there on the interest rates. Can I just ask Steve, if we were to add a small amount to one of them, and obviously Close Brothers with an interest rate higher than Nationwide would be the most obvious one to do. If we were to look to add an amount to those, A, is there a minimum with Nationwide? And B, how easy would it be to add money to an existing Close Brothers account?
Yeah, if you leave that with me, I'll email Close Brothers when I'm in on tomorrow and ask them if we can. So what figure did you have in mind?
It depends on whether there's a minimum on the Nationwide, but probably to pick up on Councillor Dillon's point, maybe an extra 20 on the Close and a 20 less on Nationwide. That's a total figure out of the
20. I was thinking 20, 30k, something like that. Yeah.
So it would then be a question of looking at Close Brothers, whether they would do, say, 75, and Nationwide, whether they would do, say, 30.
Yeah, okay.
With that caveat, we can then go to the investment working party with that information and get a decision there. If there's any guidance that the committee wants to give, but if obviously we can't go down below a minimum on Nationwide, and if Close Brothers won't accept any more money, then that's that anyway. But if that is okay with committee as a as a structure and to refer to the working party if needs be, which I would propose from the chair. If I find the second, thank you. Those in favour, thank you. Okay, so we'll to see what can be accomplished. Grants subcommittee meeting of the 14th of June and the 5th of July.
Proposed noted, Chairman.
Thank you.
Accepted.
Seconder. Thank you. Those in favour? Thank you. And community engagement working party.
Proposed adoption, Chair.
Thank you. Does that find a seconder? Thank you. Those in favour? Thank you. Working parties, our investment working party. Are these the same terms of reference for the investment working party as?
Yes, Chairman, I've not included any recommended amendments, so it's to appoint the two.
So we still have the flexibility up to 100,000 financial institution with the Fitch ratings, etc. Are we happy with the existing terms of reference and existing members for the working party, investment working party?
I think we need to change the membership, Chair. So I suspect Jeremy was on there as chair of RNA.
Right. Probably was.
And then I'd like to go on it as well. No, I don't. David can stay on as well. Just add me on if that's okay. We just increase the number of the membership. That won't affect the quorum.
Yeah, if we want to move that to 5 members. Now, for the time being, while we check, obviously, Councillor Lillycrop whether he wants to go on or not. Do we do the current investment working party as is with the addition of Councillor Dillon, or do we seek to
We swap him out
off and Lillycrop go on? I don't think it was linked to RNA.
I don't think so.
I think we had.
There's not a direct need to.
No, I think we had Councillor Cotton on there more for general business experience rather than. If we were to.
But leave it as is then, Chair, and add me.
Sorry,
Leave it as it is and add me.
yeah. So if proposed membership goes up to 5 with the addition of Councillor Dillon, what's the second there? Who's in favour? Thank you. And community engagement working party, again suggested amendments to either terms of reference or membership. We are happy then with
People doing
renewing that.
branding and profile. I think we have the right people.
So I propose from the chair everything effectively stays the same there, if that finds a seconder.
Just a question, Chair. Probably happy to. Does that include the website now? Or do we still got the website working party?
No, that's under this one now.
Okay, excellent. Can we add then, just in terms of reference, so it's clear? So online and physical presence, something like that, or our online and physical branding, just something so that it references, Facebook and nods towards it, doesn't it? Yeah,
Good idea.
towards online.
With that addition, everyone happy with that? Can I find a seconder? Thank you. Those in favour? Thank you. Financials. Back to payments from the inquest account. Right. Right, got the right one.
Page 2999.
2999. Yes. I'll go through those page by page if I may. Please shout if any queries. 999. And then we've got page 1. Well, system obviously only goes up to 2,299 goes back to page 1. Yeah. So page 1. Page 2. Page 3. 4. Nice, I've got the same tone of voice that my optician uses. To the left. Page 5. Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Jeffrey, do apologise.
I did send a note through to the clerk earlier today, and I wonder if she could just talk us through safe play, please.
Thank you. Yes, the Kennet Heath and Mount Road, as it's referenced there, these are both rope bridge repairs, sort of like scramble nets.
Yes.
With metal inside and a soft bit outside. The outside tends to wear, and then you get the metal exposed inside. So it is quite a costly repair. But just to note that actually the more expensive of the two there, unfortunately it does only say Mount Road in the description, but that also included Turnfields as well. So that was for two
TF
sites.
is Turnfields.
Yes.
Mike did show me, I know, a year ago or 2 years ago, just that thing, that the rope is there, but as it wears, you begin to get the steel come out. Not very nice for the kiddies as they're climbing up it. But now, I understand that. Thank you very much indeed.
Chair, three songs to the clerk again. Similarly, question about the Dunstan monkey bars, because I had a look at those when they were all fenced off, and I couldn't see anything wrong with them. So, what's the problem with those?
Chairman, Councillor Jeffrey knows about these.
I do. David, I will do my damnedest to remember, because I actually looked at this one with Mike Aslin, and I know what, and they did need they needed a repair. But at this moment, you're dealing with the person who's got the worst memory of anybody on the council, and I'm just trying to remember literally.
I don't doubt there's something wrong with them, but I couldn't see what it was. But I'm not a monkey bar expert.
Did you look at it when it was still broken, or did you? Or had it been repaired and replaced?
But the ones I looked at, I couldn't see what was wrong with them. The supports look solid, and couldn't see any rot on them in the posts and so on.
Oh,
That may be because they've been repaired.
No, it was fenced off. This is
Oh,
All the fence has to be taken away.
yeah. I'll seek
If you can see
Yeah.
clarification, if you tell David that if you would.
That reminds me of what I've forgotten.
And page 6. Proposed, noted and approved, because I think we've got the
Page 3,000 as well, Chairman.
Sorry, again.
Page 3,000 as well.
Oh, Lord, I forgot page 3,000. Right, so I would propose noted and approved. Thank you. Those in favour, thank you. Pre-authorised payments made from the interest account, solo soldo accounts and clerk's account.
Chairman, could we get these papers marked up again with the agenda items at the top? You used to have to handwrite on these,
Yeah.
didn't you? But it just they all look quite similar.
Obviously, the majority is these direct debits, but
Chairman, I will just ask, because it did go through my mind when I was looking through them. Is it actually cheaper to pay the DV licence monthly, or would it not be? Is it not by £1 or £2 cheaper to pay it once a year? If it is cheaper, please can we go for an annual direct debit rather than the monthly?
worth. This is my personal one. I know I pay for direct debit, it's the same, but as an annual.
It is actually the same
payment. In fact, they prefer monthly direct debits, I think. So they're happy for that. But Madam Clerk will check. So yeah, page 1, page 2. Page 3.
Chair.
Yon.
kind of just jumps out at me, so I'm curious, but why is there a deposit refund from West Berkshire Conservatives? Do we know?
Chairman, if I respond, they hired the hall, so it's their hall deposit refund.
I thought it might be, thank you.
We made West Berkshire pay deposit.
No, we made West Berkshire Conservatives pay.
Page 5, we're grateful for their support.
Absolutely.
Page 4, which is the Soldo prepayment card, which is for small stuff, apart from their charge. And last page of the Soldo, which is page 5. And then finally the clerk's impressed account, which is page 6. Thank you. I would propose receive and noted.
Do we have to receive and approve?
I think we just note these, don't we? Because
I'm happy to second either noting or approving.
that one second, thank you. Those in favour, thank you. Next, bank reconciliation, which is basically where our money is, how much our money is, and where it is.
So proposed, Chairman.
Thank you. Second, thank you. Those in favour, thank you. Annual list of suppliers paid by direct debit.
Those accepted.
Thank you. Pathfinder seconder. Thank you. Those in favour. Thank you. Continuation of card refunds for service deposit returns.
I'll
Yes,
explain what that
please.
means.
Yes, please. I'm
not sure. I'm not sure.
I'm desperately trying to think, but I do know. Yes, please, Madam Clerk.
It's just to formally approve annually that we can go ahead and refund customers their deposit, so that we can do it in a timely manner without having to come to committee.
And West Berkshire is the only one we do it with.
They all are.
No, all hires. Birthday parties. No.
Conservative
Oh,
Party.
that was just the last two.
Got to sleep.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was taking the whole shooting match for direct debits. So yeah, I would propose continuation of the use of card refunds. So those in favour. Thank you. Annual creditor report. Anything to say on this one, Steve, Mel?
I'll defer to Steve on these next two reports.
Yeah. Steve, anything to?
Before you do, should any of this be in part 2?
Just the
commercial for the people that owe us the money.
Yeah, that's a good point. Madam Clerk, when you go.
I don't need to take that away and think about it, if I may.
I just wouldn't be happy if, as a sole trader, going in Thatcham, knowing that my invoice is 60 days overdue. So then you might think, well, why would I go and hire him for works or whatever?
We carry this report forward then. If anyone has any queries, we'll go into part 2. If not,
It's already in the
yeah, true. But specifically saying something in a meeting is slightly different to it. You just generally being in public domain. If there are no,
I noted now, Chairman.
Yeah, we do know on there is one bad debt that has been discussed at the previous meeting, which related to the cemetery. So if we have a proposal for noting, finds a seconder, those in favour, thank you. And a debtor report. Do we have an age debtor report? Did I miss it?
Yeah, quite. That was the one I was referring to, actually. Sorry. pretty much identical, aren't they?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Is that the one? No?
That's the
It's that
printers.
one then.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I didn't have that one for some reason, but again, any queries on that with the caveat that we'll also look whether that should be in part 2, please, from Mark.
No comments from me, Chair. Happy to propose.
Is that for the seconder? Thank you, those in favour, thank you. And lastly, to authorise payment of salaries for the current year.
Scrap that.
Any other business, Chairman?
So proposed, Chairman.
Seconded, Chair.
Those in favour? Carry on, payment. Right.
And a comment on passant. I think that we've got good staff who give us good service and have dug out very hard over COVID, and it's appreciated.
Here, so yeah. Reports from town council employees, appointees. Councillor Foster. So Greenham, Crookham, come on.
Don't have anything to report on either of them. In fact.
Okay, thank you.
So, can I have a question? So, the feedback was that, so the common is a common. So it's there for people's enjoyment as much as animals. And actually, there's more and more areas being cordoned off for walkers not to go walking, and almost now at the Greenham part of the common in particular, actually it's just a giant exercise track. You know, it's those yellow paths and stay on the Yellowstone paths. Well, actually, it's a common. You know, it was an observation from someone that actually Beav out there to manage the common, and they're over focusing on the biodiversity and the animals rather than actually people enjoyment as well. I thought it was a real interesting just comment. That's why I just pass it back to you as feedback.
I mean, is that in relation to specifically to dog owners? Because that's what.
I heard it as a general comment about general use of the common actually. Well, why can't I go and ride my bike wherever I want up there? You're forcing everyone to stick on the paths. So now you've got toddlers walking on the path, you've got prams, you've got runners, you've got cyclists. Actually, suddenly on a small bit of land all of a sudden when you're all whizzing around there. I thought it was an interesting observation. You can't cut across the common anymore, right? But can you really?
The sense I recall, or it's birds nesting.
It's bird nesting, and I don't think it's. I think it's during bird nesting time. The restrictions are on.
So the feedback was it feels like the common is being more and more restricted for people.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, all I can say is that when they meet, this is something that is discussed.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah.
Time, the balance between, because there are various things that
The fun run.
they're managing it for, if you like.
Yeah.
So the fun run's a good example. You know, they want to keep encouraging that. But one of the problems with the fun run is you never know how many people are going to turn up. So they're very careful that if it ever gets to the point where they might have more people than they think the common can sustain, then they have to find another way to manage that. But there always talks about dog owners, and it is this balance to managing it. Because there are some, very special species up there, and if we don't manage it for them, lose them.
Thank you. Any reports from Lourdes, Trottermore, Jennifer Walker on homes? And ditto to Crowley, I think. Thatcham Youth, anything to say?
Apologies, no, I don't know anything. I did miss the annual meeting because I had COVID at the time.
And lastly, but by no means,
Well, I think I'm in about the same boat. It's just getting the community sensory garden open, and I can't remember when there was last a meeting of which I was aware it's fell into.
thank you. There can be no other business on the agenda. Meeting